so like interesting is it's alpha, not gamma, and so you can use the alpha radiation to more effectively coat things, or at least you could not anymore. But it's also used often as an anti-static electricity thing, so it's put on brushes and things like that. Almost everything you read, at least on a cursory look of the internet that I did,
for this particular substance.
Yeah, for polonium-210. Almost all of the uses you say is they'll say like, in Russia they use it for this, and in Russia they use it for that. In Russia they use it for this. So it's not
everywhere else they don't use it.
So I mean, it's not like it's just floating around in the air in Russia, but of the places that they use it, Russia is the place they use it. So
they use it in nuclear weapons too, don't they?
Yeah. Well, they have.
And so there's reason to believe that Litvinenko was murdered by the Russians for his part in covering that story, the Russian apartment building bombings.
I'm on board.
And the whole thing worked out well for Yeltsin and for Vladdy. Although of course Vladdy, I think, is pretty innocent. Just kidding. But
that's why he's shirtless on a white horse running through the surf. This is not the end of the story, Joe.
Yeah.
Steve has something to say.
Oh,
some other made-up story.
You have completely overlooked a fourth theory.
Which is what?
It could have been anybody else in the Russian Federation. Here's the thing, is that Litvinenko, when he was in the FSB, he was in it wasn't an anti-corruption, it was an anti-gang league, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, and so he fought gangs, and he constantly screamed at everybody that everybody was corrupt, and this place is riddled with corruption, and you've got to root it out. Which is part of the reason that he left the country, because he pointed the finger at everybody. He then got to the UK, he wrote those 2 books, he constantly talked to the papers, and if you look at the things that he claims to the papers, in the beginning, they're very small claims, they're believable claims. This happens in the Russian Federation, and when I was at the FSB, this happened, which means this person is responsible for this. But those claims and those accusations, because nobody ever checked him, the frickin' Guardian just ran with it.
Yeah.
He realized he had a cash cow.
Oh yeah,
and he kept making bigger ambitions, and he wasn't just pointing at Putin and Yeltsin. He was pointing at all kinds of people all the time. So it's entirely possible that he pissed somebody off that wasn't even in the government.
Yeah,
if indeed there's all these gangs running around, there's a jillion people that could have said, you know what, I'm done. And the only thing that I want to finish on, though, is that it was an FSB officer that is tied to have taken the polonium, or the paladin, or whatever it's called.
Polonium, yeah.
Polonium, thank you.
Former KGB.
Right, he was KGB, and I thought, was he actually an FSB employee?
I don't know that he ever wound up working for the FSB or not.
But the thing is that because the FSB Russian Federation didn't have much money, everything was going down the tanks, you were only supposed to work for the FSB, but it was okay. They turned a blind eye to moonlighting, which is what Litvinenko did he was a bodyguard for Boris
Berezovsky.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to be able to say that name. So he worked for Berezovsky when the assassination threat came through, one of the big ones. So it's entirely possible that this guy that is ID'd was moonlighting for somebody else and operated under their orders. So there's an entire another pool of suspects that we haven't even touched.
Well, there's
it's possible, yeah, but this is just a coincidence that all these people on this committee got murdered, but it could be. I mean, there were KGB floating around who were there for hire, and so it's entirely possible. My only quibble with that would be is that they use polonium, which is kind of hard to get your hands on if you're not actually working for the Russian government.
Okay, here's a theory. On that day that he met with the KGB people in the morning, or former KGB, whatever, he had lunch with an Italian man who was a nuclear specialist. They had lunch together, so maybe the Italian guy poisoned him.
Except the Italian dude didn't die.
So?
Well, the Italian guy didn't have to ingest it; he just had to administer it.
Yeah, put it in the guy's or in
Put it in his tea.
Yeah, no, he could have put it in his tea. It's true. What motive did he have, though? I mean, I guess
somebody paid him to do it.
Well, exactly. Somebody like the Russian government,
possibly,
or anybody else. I mean, it's just this is you've cracked it open, and I get where you've gone with your train of thought, but and I understand where all these websites that we read are all pointed. They say, well, look at this chain of deaths, and all of these people were working on this one common story, but all of those people were also working on other things, human rights violations in all these other areas, stories about embezzlement and corruption in all these other areas. You know, so that it's a web that this just happens to be one of the correlations, and it may be that they were all murdered for different reasons by different groups, and it's just, as much as I am choking on saying this, it is a coincidence.
It's entirely possible. I doubt it, but you know, I have to admit, I'm not 100% convinced. You know, but I have to say that they're my strongest suspects.
When the list becomes as large as it is, I struggle with it. I mean, I get that the Russian government is not, you know, it's not as if they have clean white gloves on and they've never done a bad thing and they've never committed an atrocity. We all know they have. I just, sometimes when I look at it, it's, look at them, Big Brother is bad, and here's all these people who died, and the state said they didn't like them, so the state must have been responsible for their death.
Well, I get that. I mean, I just think they're the logical suspects, that's all.
I think it's a bit like the GEC Marconi story that we talked about recently, where you know, that's a big old chunk of people to die, and you know what Steve is saying is true. However, as an American, I think I am obligated to say it was definitely the Russian government.
Yeah,
they are the big bad of this world.
Absolutely.
And it was them.
Oh, God.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
All right. Well, cool. So we agree.
Yeah.
Right on.
We all agree.
Okay.
Wonder Twin powers activate. I'll be over there sobbing in the corner.
Yeah, like usual.
Yeah. I'm used to it. I cry in public all the time. It's fine.
Oh, I do too. Not even at funerals, at weddings, whatever. All right. Well, so you guys have any other thoughts, or should we wind this down?
I think we solved it.
I think you two think you've solved it.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah, we did. We totally did. Well, let me tell you a few fun facts here. You're probably wondering if we have a website. Well, we do. It's called ThinkingSidewayspodcast.com, and you can grab episodes off of there, listen to episodes. We don't allow comments anymore, unfortunately. You know why. You can also download and listen to us from iTunes, and if you do that, subscribe and give us a rating and a review, and preferably a good rating and review. And you can also stream us from like everywhere, on Google Play also, right?
Everywhere.
Yeah, there's all those websites.
There's tons.
And apps.
Yeah, we have a tiny presence in social media. We're on Facebook. We have a group and also a page, so join the group. And we're on Twitter. We are Thinking Sideways without the G, and a subreddit Thinking Sideways with the G. So find us out there, and you can participate in all kinds of discussions and stuff. And if you want to contact us, we have an email. Believe it or not, yeah, we are that 21st century. It's thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And last of all, if you want to support the podcast, there's many ways to do it. There's merchandise. We have shirts and mugs and stickers, and it's all available through Zazzle and Redbubble. And you can see that in the right-hand panel on our website. There's links to that. We are also on PayPal, so if you want to donate to the podcast, you can do a one-time donation. Or if you want to give us like ongoing support, you can go to Patreon. That's Patreon. You go to patreon.com/thinkingsideways. And if you pledge a certain amount, then that's every episode. If you pledge like $1, then, you know, we get $1 from you for every episode we drop.
Yep.
And so that's about it. None of that stuff is necessary, but if you feel like it, please do. All right, guys. Any other thoughts here before we go?
I love Laddie.
Laddie. I like Laddie too, and I think he's totally innocent.
Yeah, I think he's the most beautiful, illustrious leader we've ever seen in this world, and yeah.
I just love his hairstyle.
Yeah.
I'm emulating it for years.
Oh yeah.
We're working on that Putin look.
I just wish I was as handsome as he was.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's
Please don't kill us.
It's time to Putin this to bed.
Yeah. Das Vidonia.
Thinking Sideways is not supported by aliens. Instead, it's supported by the generous donations of our listeners on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/thinkingsideways to learn more. And thanks.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Well, hey there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined as always by
Devin?
and
Steve.
And this week we're going to tackle another hard-hitting mystery. The mystery is, who thought Jar Jar Binks was a good idea?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I actually think we need to do an episode on that, though.
It's just Darth Banks. I mean, we'll go there. Someday you and I and
Oh, boy.
all three of us.
Just gonna take a big bottle of booze. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay, well, on to our real mystery then. We're going to talk about the mysterious death of Annie Bergeson, who was a 30-year-old Swedish woman who was living in Scotland in 2005 when our mystery begins. By the way, this was suggested by our listener, Mark, although he only gets 7/8 credit because I actually found this on my own, and then I went and checked the list, and his name was on there. So.
Yeah, that's been happening to us to a lot. It happened last week with the Art Bell caller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, I have.
Starting to get really good at our own research.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
All right, back to this. So what are we doing here? Okay, back to our mystery. On December 3rd, 2005, Annie left her apartment in Edinburgh, Scotland, around 1:15 in the afternoon. Less than a day later, she was found dead on the beach at the seaside town of Prestwick, about 80 miles away. If you happen to be one of those people who lives in a country that's still clinging to the metric system, that's 130 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Believe it or not, there's people who've not converted to our system.
That's crazy.
I know it is crazy.
Another mystery.
Yeah. We'll talk about that one someday too. So our mystery: her body is found. The police come and get the body and investigate and did an autopsy, and they concluded that Annie had drowned. Probably not an unreasonable conclusion, given that there was stuff in her lungs. And
Water.
then they decided that she had either committed suicide or it had been an accident. But her family and some of her friends think that she was murdered and her body was placed on the beach by the murderer or murderers. And, of course, to give it even more juice, there's a CIA angle to this story.
Yes.
I was surprised when I came across that.
Yeah, what a surprise. Actually, it could be the CIA. It might be MI5 or MI6 also.
They're the same thing.
What about UB40?
Yeah, you too also.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little background on Annie. As I said, she was 30 years old, native of Sweden, of course. She spoke quite a few languages, including English, and that's one of the reasons she wanted to live in Scotland for a while, is to perfect her English
Right,
a little
because
bit better.
Scotland
I know, the best place to learn
is
English.
definitely the best place to learn English.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Well, our Scottish listeners have said so themselves.
Have they?
Yeah.
I couldn't understand them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
is that what this says? Okay.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Annie, of course, according to family and friends, was intelligent, good-natured, very talkative and likable. And you sort of get that feeling from reading about her, of course.
Yeah.
Same time, of course, it's your dead daughter. You're not going to say, oh, she
Well, I
was
was going to say,
whore.
yeah,
You know,
there is a lot of information that's curated by her family.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This was her third visit to Scotland, and she had reportedly, I heard, had just found a job or was on the brink of finding a job, and so that was good news for her. In the days leading up to Annie's death, she did display a little bit of unusual behavior. She lived in a place called the Linton Court Apartments, and she had her own room, but she shared a kitchen with several other people. And the member of the staff at the apartments, who goes by the name of Jane, I've never found out what her last name was, reported to police that Annie had been depressed a bit about a relationship with a man. Annie reportedly also told somebody else at the apartments, whose name I don't know, or that she, quote, had to take care of something, unquote, and that she, quote, had made a decision that might change her life, unquote. So we don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, we like to read ominous into things like this, but
well, in retrospect, especially.
Yeah, but having just decided, just gotten a job in Scotland and maybe considering, moving there long term, that's a pretty big life decision. And
oh, sure. Or maybe she decided to become an Amway rep.
Yeah.
Or maybe she decided that she was going to do out, a 6-month tour there and then go home permanently. I mean, there's a million ways that it could have gone that are life-changing.
Yeah. Maybe the thing she was going to take care of was she was going to apply for citizenship to America.
Yeah.
I mean...
Or Scotland.
These are things...
It's easy to go the dark angle, but it could literally be anything.
Yeah, there's
totally agree with that.
Any given to take care of.
Yeah.
Not several things.
Yeah.
So,
and if you want to be dramatic, almost anything I do during the day could drastically change the course of my life.
Absolutely. You clip your nails a little too close and you die.
You never know.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
Forget to shave and
lose your
bad
job.
things.
Yeah. On
Talking about my legs, by the way.
Yeah. You shaving your legs?
Oh, of course.
Oh, nice. Okay.
You're going to lose that job as a leg model, Steve.
Yeah.
Listen, it's lucrative.
I know.
Oh, I bet. On December 2nd, Annie went to the Scotch Whiskey Heritage Center.
She did.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really does, actually. But she had a job there earlier in the year, and once she was there, she ran into a friend and former coworker named Kat Dalmo. And Kat said that they sat down and had a chat, and Kat said that Annie seemed her normal, cheerful self. Reportedly, though, Annie's mood changed when she got a phone call from her mother, Guya, at 6:15 p.m. Annie had some previous phone conversations with her dad and her brother, and they had both gotten the impression that something was wrong. Now, it might not be any big deal because, she was a little depressed over some guy. Maybe she was, not quite as cheerful as normal.
It could also have been, again, if we go back to the theory that she was planning to move to Scotland, that's something,
well, she was already in Scotland.
Well, but move long term to Scotland instead of saying, I'm coming back in a couple months. That's something that's kind of nerve-wracking to tell your parents, especially if you're close with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's also a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who are very close with their parents, and sometimes saying, Mom, Dad, cut it out, doesn't go so well, and the parents immediately presume that there's something wrong.
Yeah. As a 28-year-old woman, sometimes you try to assert yourself, to your parents.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
And they take that as, when you're trying to be an adult, they're like, but you're still my baby, so let me help you. And that's a thing that happens, and it's hard, especially if you maybe have been living at home part-time. I presume that when she lived in Sweden, she was staying with her parents.
Yeah, she was.
So, it's hard. It can be hard to strike any kind of news like that. So, again, I'm just trying to continue to put the normal spin on things.
Yeah, this stuff is not necessarily sinister, but anyway, her mother was concerned, so she called, but Annie said she couldn't talk because she was hanging out with her friend Kat. And then Guya was a little persistent and asked Annie what was wrong, and Annie said, quote, "You have to respect this, but I have to take care of myself," unquote. At least that's what you see on the internet everywhere. But I listened to an interview with Guya herself, and what she says in that interview is, quote, "You have to respect this, but I have to take care of this myself. I have to take care of this myself." Yeah, a little bit different. Yeah. But that's what Guya actually said, that Annie said. So I don't know how sinister it all is. I don't think it really is, actually. And not everybody wants to talk about everything. Maybe she was depressed about some guy, but she didn't really want to talk to her mother about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk about stuff like that with your parents?
Not usually.
No, really, yeah.
Sometimes, but not.
Yeah.
No.
There were some other strange things that happened, like her mother said that Annie, even though in her apartment she had a phone, and she had a cell phone too, but she would actually leave the apartment and go to a phone booth and call home from the phone booth.
I wonder if it was cheaper.
I was about to say, cell phones, this is 10 years ago, international calling, because obviously you guys know I have family overseas, and it was obscene, and I would use a phone card, but, there are some phones that you couldn't dial certain kinds of numbers.
Or even she didn't get great reception at her, if you don't get good cell reception
Spot
in your
on
apartment,
then
you don't want to risk getting cut off if you're making this really expensive call.
I suppose that's true,
So you go across to a landline.
So again, this is not necessarily earth-shattering, but
we're doing really good at just discounting everything.
I know, seriously. God, you guys, come on. We have to cut it out. We got to have a cool mystery here. And then one other weird thing happened. So again, I have no idea that this had anything to do with Annie's death, but she met a guy at a nightclub called Mood, and the guy wasn't called Mood. The nightclub was called Mood.
Yeah, no, I understood that.
Yeah. This guy said that he was a rugby player from New Zealand named Martin Leslie. And there really is a Martin Leslie from New Zealand who plays rugby.
Oh.
Yeah, he played for Scotland for 5 years, from like 1998 to 2003.
Just doesn't have to be this dude.
Yeah, but yeah, he actually hadn't been in Scotland in that year.
A couple years.
He hadn't been there for a while.
Oh, so this guy was just masquerading as him.
He was, apparently masquerading. It might be if she hung out there a lot at this nightclub, and she was also kind of into rugby players.
Yeah, well.
So it might well have been that some other guy that kind of knew her, was acquainted with her, said to this guy, "Hey, just lie to her, tell her you play rugby. She'll fall for that." It might have been.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess on the other hand, right, you don't have to lie the lie doesn't have to be so grandiose. You can just say, like, yeah, I play rugby sometimes.
Well, she was, yeah, exactly, that'd be better.
Oh, no. You obviously have not been a drunken dude in a nightclub before who the bigger the lie, the better.
Well, are you Barney Stinson or like what?
No, but no. But there. I mean, you see these things where these people will say, "I met Shaquille O'Neal, and here's my photo with him when we were at the mall, and it was so awesome." And they tweet it, and Shaquille would write back, "I'm in Chicago playing a game right now, so I don't know who that dude is." Like this stuff happens.
It's a cardboard cutout.
Yeah, but no, it happens where people impersonate others all the time because adoration feels wonderful.
Yeah, true.
True. It's a good way to get you-know-what if you're a guy.
It really does kind of serve a very base need.
Yeah.
Need?
Want? Desire?
Let's say desire.
Apparently they did get along, though, because they did spend several hours talking. And the club? Yeah, in the club. And then the guy had a glass of champagne, and he kept trying to get her to drink it. And yeah, really, seriously.
That's sketchy.
Yeah, roofie. That's the first thing that pops into my mind. Like, impersonating somebody famous, and here, drink this drink.
Yeah, here.
No, all that long,
drink
this. I only have one of these drinks. If you're gonna drink a drink, it's got to be this one.
I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is especially like it's one thing to be like, let me get you a drink. Oh, I have this glass of champagne. Do you want it? No. Okay, I'll drink it. What do you want? Or over the course of the night, a couple different glasses of champagne. But to be like, here's this one glass, drink it.
Yeah, apparently
Annie
was sensible enough to not take it when she hadn't actually seen the glass being, the booze being poured in the glass. Yeah,
obviously smart girl.
Yeah. So she didn't get roofied. And she also, I didn't mention Annie was a swimmer.